This is Coach Corner. Today we are talking about throwing biomechanics, kinetic chain and spin. My name is Joonas Märälä. I am your host today. Welcome to the video. And before we go to our topic today, the people who doesn't know me, and I'm a professional disc golf coach in Finland. I have been working with disc golfers now about 6 years. My own educational background is orthopedical osteopath, so manual medicine, rehab science, and also a little bit of sport science as well. And then I have studied the kind of like certified strength coach, and then I have studied specialization studies in sports medicine and coaching, Southern Eastern Finland University of Applied Science. And I also work as a coach in Disc Golf Team Finland. I have been working with the Finnish Disc Golf Association now 4 years. I think this is my 4th year. And then I run 10 kind of like pro player and semi-pro player training group here in Helsinki. And I have also a few other players in coaching outside of Helsinki. And then I have a few international pro players as well. Then I have wrote my kind of like small thesis in kinetic chain and motor learning in disc golf. You can go and read it in my website if you want to. And then I have been part of national team testing camps. I have planned a lot of testing to the players, and we have done a lot of collaboration between Finland and Sweden and other coaches as well. And then I have educated coaches here in Finland and also around Europe as well. And for me, the number one reason I have not made YouTube videos is because this is take a lot of time. It's kind of like balancing, and now I got okay situation that I really can put a little bit effort on like extra during the holidays, and I don't feel this is like really work for me, but the editing and stuff, it takes a lot of time, so that's the reason why I haven't put stuff in YouTube. I really like though sharing the information, and I'm really big believer on kind of like the evidence-based stuff. Of course, we need to be critical as well at current moment in disc golf because we don't have a lot of specific scientific stuff, but I think this will grow in the future, and we will get more information, and we already have had a lot of good information related to the throwing mechanics, physical aspects, motor learning, and skill training. Now we go to today's topic. Today's topic we are talking about kinetic chain and spin. This idea of open this really kind of deeply came into my mind because I have seen in our trainings that players can throw similar speed, but their spins can be really different. And also the other way, that spins can be similar, but speed there can be 15-20 kilometers difference in release speed. And today I'm using, because this is Coach Corner, so I'm using the iPad for tracking you the mechanics, and then of course the camera there, so you will see sometimes split screen, one screen, but we will figure out this later. This analysis what I have done, I have, of course, I could bring more resources, but I have 3 main resources where I kind of like point on my finger. The first is our book in sport medicine coaching school. It's like there is basic biomechanical principles, and that's 2000 pages of science and sport medicine. I have one really classic study from the golf. It's old, but it's gold. And there is one motion capture done in Finland 2019, which is public, so I will use that as well. Of course, I could bring more resources, but I think in this point, this will be enough to kind of like at least prove my hypothesis. And of course, like we have done also in the national team camps, we have done example rotational angular velocities measurements. We have done the upper body measurements with the accelerometers, but they are not public results. So I really cannot take them as a support. Of course, they are there, but they are not public. I based this also to Newton laws of motion, and I'm pretty critical as well, and I think every coach should be critical related to their own work and of course to the science as well. But still, this topic hasn't been studied a lot. I think I have really good hypothesis and I have really good background why we see different spins on players. Let's get into it. This video can be a little bit long, but it is what it is, and I hope you will get a lot of out of it. And why I'm making this video, I feel if I can share something that help players, and that's like my number goal, always to help players, and I'm really passionate to also grow this sport in in the bigger term. If I can bring something to the table which help the community and the players, then I feel like I feel good if I can do something good. I haven't done I think this type of stuff I have done only when I have been educated coaches and stuff like that. So I think it's also like a little bit balancing on, because there is in YouTube you can find a lot of stuff, but you need to be critical, and I hope you will be critical to what I bring now to you as well. But still, I have pretty good base on support what I present to you right now. Alright, so now we are looking the picture where we have two players here, and we have the right player has almost 1700 RPM on spin, and then we have the player on the left who has 1300 RPM spin. But they have almost same release speed, 111 and half. Only thing which is different is hyzer angle, but it's only like 10 degrees in disc, so it's not that I would point that is the reason. We're gonna talk about a little bit of kinetic chain, and I will try to be fast to explain this. I could use a lot of time just to explain the kinetic chain. The kinetic chain and the proximal distal sequence. So the kinetic chain describes how movement, force, momentum, how they are transferred from one body segment to other. And if we first go through the throwing phases quick, you can describe the throwing phases, or you can split the throwing phases into the 3 or even 8 categories, but I will do like here now 4. So we have a run up, and then when the right leg across the left leg, or when the trunk starts rotating, this is where the loading phase starts. And when the foot touches the ground, then the loading phase end, and it's not full plant, but it is when the foot touches the ground. The acceleration phase start, and when we go through the acceleration phase, then when the disc is released, then we have the follow through phase. The idea of kinetic chain and the proximal distal sequence is that we have here now the study from the motion capture. So we have this axle, we have angular velocity, and this axle we have time, and then this one here, the first blue like vertical kind of like graph is where the plant foot touches the ground, and this second one is where the disc is released. And the idea of the kinetic chain and the proximal distal sequence is at the beginning of the acceleration phase, the body's proximal segments, which are no blue. Yellow is the pelvic rotation, blue is trunk rotation. So these are kind of like our body's bigger segments. They accelerate first, or they start accelerate first before distal segments. And as the throw goes to the release, then we can see our like distal segments, shoulder, elbow, wrist accelerate after that. The kinetic chain and the proximal distal sequence, it is not like you need to fire the pelvis first, and then you need to fire the trunk, and then you need to fire the arm. It is kind of that, but they work kind of like level by level. So as you can see here, when the trunk accelerate, so when we would be in this position, when our trunk is now in 0 degrees, so this is like about half of the acceleration phase. Then we can see the trunk has the fastest peak, and after that the trunk do the deceleration, and then the arm, when the disc release is here, then the arm need to do the work for the acceleration. So this is kind of like the idea, and in many throwing sports, the lower body and pelvis act like base for the trunk rotation and arm acceleration. In disc golf also, like the rotational momentum is kind of like the engine of the throw. Coach Taylor has done some work in the States with the motion capture. Unfortunately, that's not public information, and here we have one study also. I know Estonia they have done, and now I know in the States they have done also some with the amateurs as well. And comparing what data we have, this guy example here in his release speed, I would say in tech disc is about 130 kilometers per hour. So as we can see, the pelvis in the in the yellow graph, like it's like we haven't seen the pelvis rotation. It's not like the pelvis rotation doesn't get really high. So at current moment we haven't seen the pelvis rotation angular velocity is correlating to the disc speed as to like really good. Trunk rot, we have also done measurements like trunk acceleration measurement in national team camps. We have done the shoulder, elbow, wrist accelerometers measurement in national team camps. That data is also unpublic, so unfortunately I cannot use as a preference. But still, the important information is that the pelvis is important, the legs are important, but the current data doesn't have seen the pelvis angular velocity correlate to the disc linear motion pretty good. So the pelvis is important, and there is rotation in pelvis, but it is more like a base. So, and also based on our research, what we have done, so we did with Dr. Jouni Kallio last year, 24. You can go read the study on my website if you want to. So we compared players the throwing kneeing compared to the full run up, and we saw the players in backhand they got 83% in kneeing position compared to the run up. So that's kind of like the study what baseball they have done in baseball as well in previous I think it was like 2005 or something like that. But the idea is the rotation angular momentum. So whenever you now I would say this guy here has trunk rotation about 120 130 degrees. So this rotational momentum is the engine of the throw, and of course we need to combine the arm, the distal segments to the throw that we want to get good release point. We want to be as accurate as possible. We don't want to accelerate the hand early, or no, we don't want to accelerate the hand late compared to the trunk rotation, and we don't want to accelerate the hand early compared to the trunk rotation. So we want kind of like the trunk, bring the arm to the right position and then fire the arm after that. And then the next chapter is we go through, again, I try to be fast. This video can be long as hell, but it is what it is. The next one is Newton's mechanical laws. I'm not really big physics guy, and I really have been trying to learn the physics after I went to the sport medicine school. I think every coach should understand the Newton laws in some way, because that is like the base of the mechanical laws. So the first law is law of inertia. That inertia describes resistance to change in motion. On the other hand, how easy or how difficult is to make something move or rotate here really quickly. So that is the idea. And if there is no force which is effect to the object will stay in the same motion. That's like the idea. And in the rotational motion, I describe it here now. Example like the disc. So the further the object is from the rotational axis. So now in this position where our trunk is 0 degrees, here the first rotational axis after the trunk is the shoulder. So the further the object is from the rotational axis, the greater the rotational inertia is. And the more force is required to accelerate. So that is the idea of Newton's first law. Alright, and then we have Newton's second law, which is the law of the acceleration. And it tells us how the acceleration is happened or produced. The force is mass times acceleration. And in the rotational motion, the m is moment or torque, and it is inertia times acceleration. So I think that is important to understand that. So then next thing is torque or moment. And here you can see the moment. It is kind of like the lever arm and times force. And then we have resultant moment as well. The resultant torque or resultant moment is combined of all torques acting about the same axis. So here example, now you can see the red dot is our axis in shoulder. This green is now kind of like the distance between the axis and the object center of mass, so the disc. And here the blue, the red is our torque, and this is the A is kind of like the acceleration, because every joint has acceleration, and every joint has torque as well. So example here, the shoulder accelerate this way. The shoulder has a moment. I could also describe it here that also the elbow has now when the elbow start doing the extension, the elbow has like the distance from the rotational axis to the object center of mass, and then it has also the range of motion. So example, we can see here now the elbow like axis it changed here, and this lever comes longer. This is biomechanics is pretty hard. I have noticed that in past 6 years. It's not easy, and I have needed to study like understanding the basic principle of biomechanics, I would say years. And I'm now at the point that I understand something, but I definitely don't understand really high level of physics. But the information, or kind of like the summarum of this set, is each part of the body produce their own torque. So example, we have shoulder, we have elbow, we have wrist. Every part of the body produce own torque, and if these torques are applied at the right time and to the right direction and with the good joint angles position, the resultant torque, which is the all combined torque of everything, example, from shoulder to the disc and then to the linear motion, that's like when the resultant torque increase. I will break down the mechanics a little bit, because the spin is now what we try to see where the difference come from. But let's first bring a little bit of like the mechanical things. Here, if we can see the player now onto the left picture, I will put them both guys to the point where the foot doesn't move anymore or touch the ground. Here we can see the pelvis. Let's put here the degrees. So the pelvis is about 50 degrees, 45, 50 degrees. Here the pelvis is about same 50 degrees. The trunk rotation is about 130 degrees on the left guy, and the same thing about 130 degrees on the right guy. And the both guys has a run up, so they will have the linear motion, and now this angle which is here between the pelvis and the trunk, this is what we call the X factor. So the both guys have about similar X factor in the late loading phase, or like when the acceleration phase start. So not really big difference on like the bigger segments. But then when let's go next to the point where shoulders are in the zero position. So as you can see here, now the zero position is here, and then here to the right guy, the zero position is right here. So we have the situation what we're gonna look through. The next is no, this is not zero, this is zero. So we have the situation what we're gonna look through is in the kinetic chain, that where the trunk is approximately at 0 degrees position. And that means that the trunk and the lower body already have complete their force contribution in terms of acceleration and momentum. So at this stage the body doesn't add any momentum or speed to the throw, because that's where the proximal segment has done their work, and now it's the time for the distal segments to do their work. So here we continue. Here now we are at the position where the trunk is 0 degrees, and like the shoulder, I will zoom a little bit. So the shoulder here act as now as a rotational axis. So I have red dot here and red dot here, which is I try to put it about where the shoulder acromion is. It's like the middle of the joint, kinda. And now after the torso have done the acceleration, the proximal distal system is the shoulder is first in motion, then we have the elbow in motion, then we have wrist, and then the disc is the final linear, which is it turned to the disc linear motion. And now this green arrow here and here. So the arrows illustrate how the throwing arm rotate around the shoulder axis after the torso has reached the 0 position. And at this point, the rotational inertia come in place. And this is really critical for torque and acceleration. So here, the left guy, now we can see the disc is far away from the rotational axis compared to the right guy. So the left guy, the disc is about where. So the disc is where it's about, the disc center of mass is about where the left shoulder is. And the right guy, the disc center of mass is about where your like body's midline is. And now this guy, the left guy, when the disc is farther from the rotational axis, the rotational inertia is larger, and the torque is kind of like lost. The torque is lost kind of like early because the hand is late compared to the trunk, and that will affect the angular acceleration also. So the angular acceleration is slower as well. So that's like the first idea. And of course, like here on the right guy here, now when the disc is closer to the like the rotational axis, now like here, now the rotational inertia is smaller and the torque is more effective, and the torque will cause more torque to the elbow and to the wrist as well because the inertia, and the arm and the disc will accelerate probably a little bit longer time. And next we go to the position where the disc center of mass is about where your right pec is. So it's about here. And now the critical things what we need to understand, that after like the rotation axis would be here first for the shoulder and like for the reducing the inertia. I think the understanding the total resultant torque or like resultant moment is that, and the distal segment acceleration is that the shoulder is in the motion. We want get the the elbow forward because we want get more length for the our lever. And now when we look at this point where like kind of like the rotational axis in shoulder doesn't affect anymore, so the axis will go and the torque will kind of like change, and the acceleration change also to the elbow. We can see here that the left guy has the elbow already in the motion, or like the elbow has already start extension. Like kind of like the elbow never doesn't kind of like extend, like I would say it extend, but it extend really late, and the range of motion is kind of like short compare here. And we need to remember that total resistant torque that it applies to the every joint. So example, after the elbow, after the shoulder it will go to the elbow, and it will affect to the direction of where the disc is go. So elbow, and then wrist, and then disc. And I think the interesting part here, if we look here the wrist position, if I really zoom in and we go to the same spot, I would say here this guy has lost the wrist flexion already. Here we have wrist flexion. We have still wrist flexion. There. So that's just interesting part. But that's the conclusion. So the deep pocket, when the position is more compact, here kinda this is the zero position. This is already go over 0, so this is about the 0 degrees position from the trunk. So the rotational inertia is smaller, torque is more, or the moment, or the resultant moment is more effective, and the arm and disc accelerate for the longer time. And of course the arm position affect how efficiency the force is converted into the disc rotation, because the elbow, when the elbow extension like have a more range of motion, the proximal distal effect is also more effective, because the torque act here on smaller rotational inertia compared to the here to the left guy. So it requires more force to kind of like to spin the disc. But then what can also affect the spin? Of course, this is the one part. We can use more resultant torque to the disc, and also the guy on the right picture, he has more potential acceleration in the future as well. But the fingers create torque around the disc axis as well, and the longer you can, the longer and cleaner contact you can maintain, I think that will affect a little bit more into the spin as well, because as you can see here, the torque doesn't apply the center of mass of the disc. It apply like here onto the side. So as whenever you can like keep the wrist here, and the wrist is about, if my thumb is now 12 o'clock, so at the release, if I look the Neil example, I think his thumb is here about to the 9 o'clock. So it will affect more torque at the release point as well. Okay, but I think the question is why the speed can be still same. And the answer is because the speed is also generated in proximal segments in kinetic chain, like legs and trunk, and it's not only for like this elbow is like the second last link, but it is important, and the sequence is the key here. Like you need to get the distal parts accelerate in right order, and also if you can get the distal parts accelerate in the right order, it will increase the total torque and it will reduce the inertia. But still the same speed can apply even that players have a little bit difference in distal segment timing and torques. And the summary of this video is that spin is not created by one segment. This late kind of like from rotation to the linear motion. This is the important part to create spin with increasing the time and increasing the total resistant torque and reduce the inertia. Of course, in the drawing we need to think also the kinetic chain, how the chain work as well. So it was pretty fun to do this video, and I hope you can get something out of it. Leave a comment if you like this coach corner thing. Also follow me on Instagram. I will be more active on Instagram. I have training programs in my website if you are interested. We have physical training, technical training, sparring training, and then mental training is in Finnish, but it is coming in English as well. And then the mobility training as well. But I will try to increase the online trainings as well. But at this current moment, I say thank you to you. I say thank you that you watched the Coach Corner. I'm Jonas and I say Happy New Year. I say Happy New Year 26 to you. Bye.